format of the balance sheet. Some companies use other odd ways of doing it, but the two basic ways are going to be your account format and your report format. So this is an example, a very simple example of the account format. Basically, you get your assets on one side, you've got your liabilities and owner's equity on the other. A lot of small companies use this if they're fairly simple financial statements. The one problem is you need to have a fairly wide page, and so sometimes you have to have the assets on one page and then the liabilities and stockholders' equity on the page facing it. So this is the what's called the account format. Get your assets on one side and the liabilities and equity on the other. So then the report format is more what we're kind of used to looking at, where you have everything listed on top of each other. So you've got your assets, then your liabilities, and then your owner's equity. Okay, so these are fairly simple examples of what the balance sheet formats are. A better example is on page, I think it's, it may change after a while, 215 of the text. Gives a little better illustration, and they're using the report format here, just in terms of what the balance sheet should look like. So you have your assets, make sure you have all the current and all the various large categories, the current assets, long-term, and then property, plant, and equipment. Notice that there'll be parentheses here and there with more explanation. Accounts receivable have to be presented at their net realizable value. That's less the allowance for doubtful accounts. Usually tell what your inventory costing method is. So in terms of format, you got your current assets, long-term investment section, your property, plant, and equipment, less the accumulated depreciation, and then your intangible assets. So that gives you pretty much your big categories of assets and some of the things that can end up inside them. Okay, your liabilities and stockholders' equity. You have your various current liabilities, long-term debt with some explanation, and then the more complicated, and this is where the the basic examples really fall a little short. You have all of your description that's needed for the various stockholders' equity items. So you have to say it's 7% cumulative, and then authorized, issued, and outstanding, what's the par or stated value, preferred listed first. And then the same description, you just have to tell the story all about the stock. Then you have your additional paid-in capital, and they just give one amount. That's kind of strange. I don't know whether that would be on the common or preferred. I'd kind of like to know, wouldn't you? Okay. And then your retained earnings, and there can be notes that go along with that. And then all of our other sort of, well, we're familiar with treasury stock. We go less the treasury stock. But then we also have to figure out the accumulated other comprehensive income and our controlling and non-controlling interests. Okay, so that's your basic formats. You have to know the account format, what does that mean? Report format, what does that look like? And then, as I say, the detailed balance sheet on page 215 sort of tells you about all you're going to have to figure out about the balance sheet. Okay, so let's see. Oh, next, I'm going to go on to the supplemental disclosures for the balance sheet.